Welcome to the Explainer. You know, we make choices literally every single day. But what happens when the actual survival of an entire company is on the line? Today, we're diving straight into the math and the frameworks behind those high-stakes, data-driven business decisions. I want you to imagine for a second that you're the CEO of a rapidly growing company. You've got this massive make-or-break choice sitting right in front of you. On one hand, you're staring down a potential $1.3 million gain, the kind of win that completely cements your legacy, right? But on the exact same coin, if things go south, that same choice could trigger a devastating $150,000 loss that could completely tank the business. So how do you make $1 million choice? Do you just go with your gut, or do you let the math take the wheel? To figure that out, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the expansion dilemma, then maximizing the minimum, the Minimax Regret solution, and finally, decision tree analysis. Section 1, the expansion dilemma. So in this scenario, you've basically got three choices: expand, maintain the status quo, or just sell right now. But before we even get into the numbers, we have to talk about a really crucial concept called states of nature. In decision theory, these are those completely unpredictable external variables that you have absolutely zero control over. For us, it's whether foreign market conditions are going to be good or poor. Because let's face it, your strategy has to change depending on what the universe decides to throw at you. This matrix right here perfectly captures that tension. Let's break it down. If we choose to expand, we could pull in $800,000 in good conditions and still clear a very respectable $500,000 in poor ones. Now, check out the status quo. In good conditions, boom, $1.3 million. But if things go poorly, we're in the red for a really painful $150,000 loss. And then at the bottom, we have sell now. That is a completely safe, guaranteed $320,000 no matter what happens. So what do you actually choose? That brings us to section 2, maximizing the minimum. This particular framework is honestly perfect for the highly risk-averse leader, the type who just wants to play it completely safe. Notice how we've basically stripped away all the flashy upside potential here. We're strictly isolating the absolute worst-case scenarios to find the safest possible floor. If market conditions are terrible, expanding gets us $500,000. Holding the status quo means we lose $150,000, and selling nets us $320,000. We've just cut through all the noise to focus purely on survival. And when you look at it that way, by maximizing the minimum, which just means picking the absolute best of the worst outcomes, the winner is super clear. It's the $500,000. Under this specific framework, the most logical choice is to expand. Why? Because expanding completely avoids that really scary $150,000 loss from the status quo, and it easily beats the $320,000 safety net of selling. You guarantee yourself $500,000, even on your absolute worst day. Pretty comforting, right? Moving on to section 3, the Minimax Regret solution. Okay, but what if you aren't just afraid of losing money? What if, honestly, your biggest fear is missing out on making way more? The Minimax Regret framework shifts our entire psychological lens to measure exactly what we're leaving on the table. So instead of just looking at flat-out profit or loss, we are literally calculating the cost of missed opportunities. It asks the question, if you make a choice and the market decides to do something completely different, exactly how much are you going to regret not taking that other path? It's actually a super straightforward process, but it totally flips how you look at the data. Step 1. You look at a specific state of nature, let's say good conditions, and you just find the maximum possible payoff available in that scenario. Then, step 2. You take your chosen option's payoff and subtract it from that maximum number. Whatever the difference is, well, that's your regret. It is literally the money you could have had if you just had a crystal ball. Let's actually put this into action so you can see it. In good conditions, the absolute best move was maintaining the status quo for that sweet $1.3 million. If we had chosen to expand instead, we only made $800,000. So $1.3 million minus $800,000 leaves us with a massive regret of $500,000. Ouch. But look over at poor conditions. The best move there was to expand for $500,000. If we had stubbornly clung to the status quo, we would have lost $150,000. Subtracting a negative $150K from $500K gives us a whopping $650,000 regret factor. So the entire goal with this framework is just to choose the option that leaves you with the lowest maximum regret. Finally, section 4, decision tree analysis. Up until now, we've really just looked at these very basic binary good or poor scenarios. But we all know the real world is almost never that simple.
By bringing in probability and potential market growth, a decision tree completely changes the game. Instead of just staring at a flat grid, I want you to imagine a map of branching paths. Like, if we take action A and then the market grows, well, then what? This method actually lets us chart out sequential decisions over time so we can see exactly where the path naturally leads.
And honestly, this is where it gets incredibly fascinating. We aren't just saying, oh, maybe the market will be good. We are attaching hard, cold math to those maybes. We assign specific probabilities to various scenarios, ranging from a highly likely 0.80 all the way down to a much riskier 0.20. Mapping out the likelihood of these events forces you as a decision maker to actually quantify your gut assumptions. It gives you a much more nuanced, heavily weighted calculation to work from. When you actually follow those probabilities down to the very end of the tree, the variance is just staggering. Take a look at this comparison. On the high-end branches, we are talking about potential outcomes of $2.54 million, or even an absolutely incredible $3 million. But if you follow a different branch where the probabilities just don't break your way, you could land at outcomes of just $210,000. By multiplying the potential payoffs by their exact probabilities, you can figure out the expected value of every single path, well before you ever spend a single dime. It's like having a financial time machine.
Well, we've definitely covered a lot of ground in this explainer today, from finding the absolute safest floor to minimizing your FOMO and future regret, all the way to mapping out these beautifully complex probabilities on a decision tree. But it all comes down to this ultimate question, and I really want you to think about this. Which framework would you actually trust with your own money? Seriously, if your entire life savings were on the line right now, are you maximizing the minimum just to play it safe? Or are you chasing the highest probability of that massive $3 million payout? The math can give you all the numbers in the world, but ultimately, the choice you make reflects exactly who you are. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and as always, stay curious.